I'm a really optimistic person who worries a lot, but I don't know how those two things like work. But I see this as an opportunity. I'm in the tourism business, and I think downtown will always be important. We are social creatures. I think we're figuring out what that evolves into. But I think there are opportunities here to do some of this work, since you can work anywhere, right? In different places. Like, think about this for a second. What if the Kimmel Center, which during the day probably is not having a show or anything like that, it has a vast lobby. What if there was free Wi-Fi where you could go, do your work, but you had to buy $20 worth of concessions, a sandwich, salad, a couple coffees, stuff like that. I'm still working downtown, but I'm not necessarily working in the office, but if my office needed me, I could get there probably really fast. So I'm just trying to be more open to what it could look like. And I'm trying to think back, like we used to work 7 days a week. The average workday was 12 hours. There was child labor. You could smoke in the office with closed windows. You know, there was a lot of unsafe work environments. We have evolved, and here's our opportunity to evolve what that looks like. And I think you were on it when you were like, it's not a balance, it's a blend.
Exactly.
And the technology is allowing us to do that. Do I have to do my work at a desk? Does it have to be in this building? Can it be in this building sometimes and sometimes in this other building, right? Like being in the suburbs sometimes and then being in the city sometimes. I mean, I feel like that's the most ideal thing. And I think that's what's gonna spur like creativity and innovation, not always being around the same people in the same spaces all of the time. But the downtown core will be part of that, but so will some of the neighborhoods and so will some of the region.
Yeah, and I actually think JLL just published a report last week, actually, The Future of Work, and it's a survey of people to ask, and we haven't done it in 4 years, so it's a new report, but 72% of organizations that we surveyed said that office is still going to be a large part of their ecosystem. So that's really important to understand the value of office. Not all the time, but at the times that you're there, it's going to support the work that you do and also build the culture and community of who you are. I'm afraid of groupthink always, because I don't want to be around people that are just like me. It's like a pulse check, right? So you're actually getting challenged to the way that you think, and it'll create more opportunity for great ideas if you're not hearing the same thing and everybody's saying, oh yeah, you're so fantastic and wonderful. It's the times that you're told, like, I don't think that idea is gonna work because this is how my people work. So that's what we love in terms of dialogue and really understanding office and the future of work, is really understanding our clients and how they're working, you know, when they're working. What are sort of the moments of opportunity for you to really understand and explore your new workspace? So I think that groupthink is what scares me the most, and it does have to do everything with socialization. We want to be challenged in terms of how we think and why we think the way we do, because sometimes you can change your mind, right?
I sit in a space where I try to be optimistic, and I sit there because we are an incredibly resilient people, and we have shown that through the trauma, how incredibly resilient we are. But we've also seen, so if you think about, when I first moved here, I was fascinated by all the restaurants that had the outdoor, so that people could still come and support. And the conversations that I had with my friends around, well, we have to make sure we get carry out from these places because we want to make sure they're still here. We have to make sure we support X because we don't want them to close. My concern is that in the trauma and in doing what we often do, which is solving for the now, that we're not necessarily really tuned into what's happening that could stop us from getting to the next place. I look at, classic example, I don't know if anybody's been on a plane lately, and I'm going to talk about American Airlines because my experiences on American Airlines have been miserable. But when you go to an airport and you're used to seeing at every station somebody who's checking people in, somebody who's answering questions, the pilots and the flight attendants who are standing there to get on the plane. And now you go there and there's one who's running from and working all 8 for American or United or Delta or whoever. These are people that just walked away from jobs, said, I'm not doing this anymore. And my concern is, I don't know that we understand the reason why. We're not focused on why people are willing to walk away and not know what they're going to do next and not care about what they're going to do next because they're just done. So that's the thing that I am really worried about, because I don't think we've been too busy solving for all the other things, and I don't think we understand that yet.